I trusted my daughter. I really did. But when she married him, I had no idea I'd spend the next 3 years listening to my own son-in-law lecture me about how evil I was, while I was signing his paychecks every single week. And the worst part? He had no idea who I actually was. What happened next broke my family apart. And then it taught me the most important lesson I've ever learned.
My name is David, and I'm 58 years old. I spent the last 40 years building my company from absolutely nothing. I'm talking about starting in a garage with my business partner, Tom, eating ramen for dinner, working 16-hour days, sleeping in my car, sometimes just to save money on rent. But we made it. We built something real. Today, my company, let's call it Morrison Industries, operates across 15 states. We have over 300 employees. We manufacture commercial construction materials and industrial equipment. It's not glamorous. It's not tech, but it's solid, it's profitable, and provides good jobs to a lot of people who need them. I've got 2 daughters. Sarah is my oldest. She's 32 now, married with 2 kids of her own. And then there's Jessica. Jessica's my baby. She always has been. When she was born, I cut a 15-minute meeting short because I didn't want to miss meeting her. That's just who I am with my kids. Jessica went to college, studied business, actually, funny enough, but she always wanted to do something meaningful. She wanted to change the world. I respected that about her, even when she'd roll her eyes at business talk at the dinner table. When she met Marcus at a coffee shop 3 years ago, I was genuinely happy for her. He seemed nice, genuine, a little intense about social issues, but hey, that's not a bad thing, right? I thought, this guy cares about things. That's admirable. But here's where I should have paid closer attention, in the first week of dating him, Jessica mentioned something that, looking back, was a huge red flag. She said, "Dad, Marcus doesn't want to know what you do for work. He says most business owners are exploiting their workers and destroying the planet. He doesn't judge you, but he'd prefer not to talk about it." I remember laughing. I actually laughed. I thought it was a quirk. An annoying quirk, but still just a quirk. I should have walked that back. I should have said something. But I didn't. They got married 2 years ago. The wedding was beautiful. Jessica looked absolutely stunning. Marcus gave this speech about love, transcending materialism, and finding meaning beyond the corporate machine. Everyone clapped. Jessica cried happy tears. I paid for the whole thing, about $40,000, and I smiled the entire time. At the reception, I tried to talk to Marcus. I offered him a job. Actually, not a basic position. I was thinking management track. I liked the idea of keeping in the family, helping him get established. He politely declined. "I appreciate it, David," he said, and he actually put his hand on my shoulder, "but I need to work somewhere I can align my values with my labor. I couldn't work for a corporation." That word, corporation, he said it like it tasted bad. I let it go, but I remember thinking, okay, this guy has principles, I guess. Fine. 2 months later, he got a job. Guess where? At a mid-level management position at a logistics company. Not some nonprofit. Not some small sustainable startup. A real, publicly traded corporation making decisions based on shareholder value, just like mine. But I didn't say anything. Jessica was happy. That's all that mattered. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have predicted, was that he'd been lying to my daughter about where he was working. He told Jessica he got a job at an independent logistics consultancy. He called it a worker cooperative. It wasn't. I found this out later, but in the moment, I just noticed that Jessica suddenly seemed different. She stopped asking about my business. When I mentioned something going on at Morrison, she changed the subject real quick. I figured maybe Marcus had asked her not to engage. Fine. Your marriage, your rules, I figured. But then came the dinners. The dinner started about 6 months into their marriage. Sunday dinners at my house. Jessica thought it would be nice for everyone to gather, get to know each other better. I was all for it. Family is everything to me. The first one was fine. The second one was educational. Marcus started talking about the systems of exploitation that keep working people oppressed. He was passionate about it. He talked about how corporations were destroying the middle class, how executives were stealing from their workers, how the rich lived on the backs of ordinary people. My wife, Patricia, she kept shooting me looks like don't engage. I didn't. I asked him about his job. He gave vague answers. It's interesting work. Logistics, complex systems. By the third dinner, he'd moved on to specific critiques. He talked about how guys like CEOs were basically stealing from their workers. He said executives were morally bankrupt. He said most business owners were parasites. I sat there eating pot roast that Patricia made, and I just listened. The fourth dinner, he went for it. You know what really gets me? He said, leaning back in his chair. I work with guys, actual CEOs and ownership types, and you can just see it in their eyes. The emptiness. They chase money like it means something. They step on people. They don't care about their workers. They don't care about their impact. It's all about the bottom line. He took a bite of salad. I just feel bad for them, honestly. They get to the top and realize they're empty inside. No real relationships. No meaning. Just money and status. Jessica was looking at her plate. My daughter Sarah was looking at me. I said, "That's an interesting perspective." And he said, "I know it's probably weird to say around you, David, but honestly, I think most people in business just don't understand that there are other ways to live. Better ways." I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "I think a lot of people in business do understand that. But they also understand that their employees need health care and rent and food. And without the business, there's no paycheck. It's more complex than good guys and bad guys." He smiled this patronizing smile, I'll never forget it, and said, "Maybe. Or maybe we've just normalized exploitation so much that we don't even see it anymore." After that dinner, Patricia pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Don't let him get to you," she said. "I'm not," I said, "but I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not either." Patricia's face changed. "That's not what I meant. I just mean, don't make it weird with Jessica. She's caught between you." And I realized something in that moment that made my stomach drop, that my daughter wasn't just listening to Marcus. She was believing him. Here's what I did. I'm not proud of it, but I need to tell you exactly what happened. I decided to do something I'd never done before. I decided to observe, to watch, to see exactly what was happening in my daughter's marriage and in my relationship with her. I also decided to stop trying to defend myself. The next Sunday dinner, the fifth one, I came with a different approach. I've been thinking about something Patricia said about how Jessica felt caught between us. And I realized something. I didn't want my daughter to have to choose. So I made a choice. I decided to pretend I was broke. Not completely broke. Just struggling. I let little things slip. I'd mention how expensive it was to maintain the house. I talk about how the business was having a rough quarter. I make a joke about not being able to afford the good wine anymore and bringing the $10 bottle instead. I wanted to see two things. Would Marcus still judge me if I wasn't successful? And would Jessica finally relax? For about 3 weeks, it worked. Marcus was nicer to me. He'd ask how the business was doing. There was sympathy in his voice, which was new. Jessica laughed more at dinners. The tension dissolved. But then something changed. One Sunday, Marcus didn't come to dinner. Jessica came alone, which was unusual. When she arrived, she had red eyes. She'd been crying. "What's wrong?" I asked. She sat down at the kitchen table, and she told me something that gutted me. Marcus had gotten a promotion at work. Better salary, better position. And when he told Jessica, he apparently said, and these were her words, her tears, "Thank God. I'm tired of being the only one in this family with real integrity. Your dad's struggling financially, and I respect that he's not just selling his soul to climb the corporate ladder, but I need to actually provide. I can't be held back anymore." My daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, he's ashamed of you. He thinks you're a loser." I had to put my hand on the table to steady myself. Not because of what Marcus thought, but because my daughter had cried about it. She continued, "And the worst part? He's working for a major corporation now." I asked him about it. I was angry. And he finally admitted that his independent consultancy was actually a logistics company, and his new job is managing operations for a massive multinational. But when he talks about it, he reframes it. He says he's working from within the system to change it. Patricia came and sat next to Jessica. My wife just put her arm around our daughter. Jessica said, "Mom told me what you did, that you were pretending. Why didn't you tell me?" And I had to explain. I had to sit there and explain that I was trying to protect her from having to choose, and instead, I'd created this twisted dynamic where Marcus felt like he had permission to look down on me while secretly doing the exact same things he criticized me for. But here's where it gets worse. Because Jessica, still angry, still hurt, did something I didn't expect. She went home and she did her research. The next day, Jessica called me. "Dad," she said, "I need you to listen to me, and I need you to tell me the truth about everything." I did. I told her about my company. I told her about the revenue. I told her about the fact that we employ over 300 people, that we provide health care, that we have a pension plan, that we give people real careers. I told her that yes, I'm successful, and I'm proud of that, not ashamed. Then I said, "But I want to hear about Marcus. Tell me exactly what he said about that job." Jessica had dug into it. She'd looked up the company, and she discovered that Marcus's new employer wasn't just any corporation. It was one that had been involved in a lawsuit about worker safety violations. And Marcus, in his new position, would be part of the management team making those decisions. She also discovered, and this broke her, that Marcus made more money than I'd made at his age. Significantly more. Here's what Jessica did next. And I want to be clear, I didn't tell her to do this. I didn't encourage it, but I understood why she felt like she had to. She confronted him. She said, "You've spent years criticizing my father for being a corporate executive. You've lectured our family about exploitation and greed. And now you're working for one of the most aggressive corporations in the country, making more money than my father made when he was your age, and you're lying about it." According to Jessica, Marcus had 3 reactions. First, he got defensive. He said the situations were different. He said he was trying to change the system from within. Then he got angry. He accused Jessica of being a daddy's girl and unable to see her father's exploitation. Finally, and this is the part that broke her, he got cold. He said, "You know what? If you're going to side with your family's money over your husband's principles, maybe we shouldn't be together." Jessica left. She came to my house that night with a suitcase. Now, I want to tell you what happened with Marcus after that, because this is where karma comes in. And trust me, I didn't engineer this. I didn't need to. Jessica filed for divorce. Clean, civil, but final. During the divorce proceedings, Marcus's company, the one he'd hidden from Jessica, the one he claimed to have ethical issues with, came under federal investigation for workplace safety violations. The violations Jessica had read about in the lawsuit, they went much deeper than anyone initially knew. Turns out, Marcus's position in management made him partially liable for some of those violations. He wasn't criminally charged, but the company settled, and there were significant changes in management. Marcus lost his job. He reached out to Jessica about 6 months after the divorce was finalized. Jessica told me he was trying to explain himself, to say he'd made mistakes, to see if there was any way back. He was struggling. No job, no family support, no sense of purpose. Jessica, who's a better person than I am, felt genuinely sorry for him. But she didn't take him back. The thing that gets me the most, and this is what really drove the lesson home, is that Marcus reached out to me too. Not to apologize. He didn't have it in him. But he asked if there might be a job at Morrison Industries that I actually considered it. I sat with that for a week. But in the end, I said no. Not out of spite. That's important. I said no because I realized something about myself in this whole situation that I didn't like. I'd been so careful not to judge Marcus for his choices that I'd let him judge me without consequence. I pretended to be something I wasn't because I was afraid of losing my daughter. And that fear had actually created the very distance I was trying to prevent. 3 years later, here's where we are. Jessica's remarried to a genuinely good guy who actually listens to what other people say instead of waiting for his turn to talk about himself. They have a 1-year-old daughter, my granddaughter, and Jessica worked part-time for a nonprofit while also helping me with administrative work at Morrison. Sarah has no idea any of this happened. I didn't drag her into it, and I'm glad. Marcus? Last I heard, he was doing okay. He got a job at another company. I hope he found what he was looking for. But me? I learned something that changed how I see myself and my family. That I learned that pretending to be less than who you are doesn't protect the people you love. It just teaches them to doubt you. It creates space for people who don't respect you to move in and take up residence in your family dynamic. I also learned that there's nothing wrong with being successful. There's nothing shameful about building something, about providing for your family, about being proud of your work. What matters is whether you do it with integrity, whether you treat people fairly, whether you use your success to build something that lasts and that helps others. I do all of those things. I'm not ashamed of that. And the best part? Jessica knows it now, really knows it, not because I defended myself, but because she figured it out herself. And that changed everything between us. So here's what I'd say to anyone watching this. Don't pretend to be less than who you are for anyone. Not for love, not for respect, not for approval. The people worth keeping in your life will respect you for who you actually are. And the people who don't, they were never really in your corner anyway. Be authentic. Be proud of your honest work. And surround yourself with people who see you for who you really are. Because at the end of the day, that's the only foundation worth building a life on.